Nigerian media somehow have taken up the role of the audience in Shakespearean tragicomedy. So the Nigerian media knows the truth, but they see the government now as a content. They see crime and criminality as content. So they keep allowing the story to go. It's obvious that President Tinubu knows very well and doesn't mind that people pay money to his principal staff to get appointments and to get access. So it's a dead government. It's a clearing and forwarding government. The Senate does not exist because the Senate president is the senior special assistant to the president of Nigeria on comedy and MC and ceremonial opening. So the Senate has lost its leadership. There's a decapitation of the Senate. So the Senate as a watchdog, where government agencies will retire their spending and come and explain, is the one who goes around not on oversight functioning, but he goes around as an idle hand that the president calls when he's too busy taking care of himself. So if they say, President, come and commission something, he doesn't send the minister who is involved, he sends the Senate president, who goes there to sing for the president and do Alibaba and another comedy show for the president and all of that. It's even the president who has a list to dictate who will return to the Senate, who will not return to the Senate. And he also has given them parliamentary blindness, parliamentary glaucoma, that they are not allowed to read laws that they pass. You know, we have not mentioned House of Representatives because we know that they've gone below nursery school level. They just come there to mark attendance because their speaker can't speak. And the deputy speaker is just having a very good time with his tailor. I pray that the Attorney General will have second thoughts to understand that he's not a legal assistant to the president. Even the legal assistant to the president still has minimum professional ethics. So for me, I'm sadly disappointed that Prince Lateef Fagbemi SAN will interpret his role as Attorney General to the extent that he feels that he needs to help the politics of the government by registering these political parties.
Welcome to Naija Unfiltered, a SYMFONI podcast. And our guest on today's edition of the program is the SDP presidential candidate, Prince Adebayo. Good to have you on the program once again.
Good to see you, Victor. And may God bless Nigeria.
Thank you very much. Let's start this way. You have stated that President Bola Tinubu is out of touch with both economic and security challenges facing Nigerians. Maybe we might want to hear from you exactly what you mean by that. Elaborate on that.
Well, there's too much evidence of that to make it a new thing. You could see even from recent developments, President Tinubu is not only out of touch with the people, out of touch with security, out of touch with the economy. He's even out of touch with his own government. He doesn't even know how many government agencies there are. People are creating agencies, running agencies, performing, even being more active than him himself, without being known to him, and is now, from official records, asking ICPC to help him investigate whether truly that agency is correct or whether the appointment is real and stuff like that. So I think that President Tinubu's lack of environmental appreciation of the issues is kind of worsening to even lack of self-awareness. So that is a fact. And this can also now be, it's no longer a matter of criticism now. It's now a matter of rationalization as to why so many abnormalities and abominations that we witness in government, this fictitious government agency that has just been created is now an explanation for so many things. That's why you can have fictitious families being fed. When they say we are feeding so and so thousand, that's why you can have fictitious roads being built, fictitious economy revamping, and fictitious grip on Boko Haram and all the rest of it. So President Tinubu is operating a movie set located in Aso Rock. So the directors of the movies, there are people we don't know. But generally, President Tinubu is playing the role of a president in a movie set, devoid and detached from reality.
Economically speaking, if you were the president, what do you think you would do differently from what he is doing? Maybe 2 or 3 key examples.
It's light and day. With me as president, even if I was president since January this year only, not talk of president since 2023, 5 things are going to be clear. First, Nigerians will be productive because the tools for productivity, when you wake up in the morning and you want to go and farm, you want to go and create, you want to go and teach, you want to do anything of economic value, the tools to do that will be there. You wouldn't have this explosively expensive petroleum price situation. So the factors of productivity will be affordable. Young people will be employed and they will work. And they will have meaningful work. You would have resolved issue regarding security, safety, so there will be no kidnapping, people will be able to travel, as they like. And the 15 trillion they threw into a hole for coastal road, which they just is exhibition highway, just call it exhibition highway, will have been used to resolve most of the problems in all our federal highways. You have all our federal highways functioning because these federal highways are well known. They are gazetted roads. They are roads which commercial transporters, haulage practitioners, market women, farmers, everybody knows these roads. And these are the roads that are the arteries of the country. What President Tinubu is doing with not fixing the federal roads is like somebody who has a functioning circulatory system and block all his veins and is doing blood transfusion outside his body. So it's like someone who shuts down his kidney that is functioning or that are functioning and is now trying to do dialysis. There are roads that go across the country. There's no part of Nigeria. And if you see the road master plan, the best of them was the one Femi Okunu as Minister of Works under Gawan. They redid those roads. The roads that Femi Okunu designed during Gawan's time, we don't even finish building all of them. And the ones we build, we're just maintaining them. So we've not maintained them well. So why do you need to create other corridors? You can do those things. I'm not against any innovation, but you can't leave the main road. or abandoned. So you cannot have the roof of your roof of your family house blown away, and then you are creating a guest house, spending your money on the guest house by the corner. So we address that. We address the issue of the currency such a way that we take 3-point approach to it. One, on the fiscal side, we have to make sure that government money goes to government accounts. And President Tinubu is a total failure in that regard. And you will see from the IMF, who are their friends, saying about 9 trillion. By my own calculation, the money that is lost to the federal account is about 330 trillion.
Where did you get your own figure?
Yeah, because you see, this is how the money is. There's a ledger where you keep government money. That ledger in our constitution is called Section 162, Federation Accounts. So any money that comes that is accruable to the Federation is paid there. And that Federation account is very important because it was even part of what we discussed at Aburi. It's a very important thing. At Lancaster House, it was a major issue. So Federation account, what should go inside, what should not go inside. So we settled with this Section 162 that says all monies accruing to the Federation goes to the Federation account. So which means that you see Chinese people running about picking minerals. All the money of these minerals is supposed to go to the Federation account. And you could see that majority of the minerals in Nigeria is being stolen in collaboration with politically connected people. Now, if an aircraft flies over Nigeria, Swiss Air, anything, just not even coming here, just going away, fly over Nigeria, they pay us for allowing them to fly over Nigeria and using our navigational equipment. So the money goes there. A lot of government assets, seaports, so many of them, which they've been managed concession. So majority of the money that ought to be going there, it's not going there. The only way you will know is just to look at, if you see an elephant in the bush and you see a dropping that looks like dropping of a bird or a chicken, and they say, oh, this is the elephant dropping. You say, no, this dropping is not the size of an elephant because the metabolism of an elephant will not lead the elephant to have the dropping of a pigeon. So if you look at the size of the economy, the size of the population, and look at the amount of money the government says is receiving, and if you look at the lifestyle of people in government, you know that it cannot be true. So all these leakages are the reasons why a lot of money is missing, and that's why the economy is not stable. We have to deal with that. Second is procurement. Because the two sides of the fiscal is that income and expenditure. The income, they are not recognizing 90% of the money that they ought to recognize. They just share the money. That includes people stealing crude. Even the government still claims now that, I raised the alarm during the campaign that 80% of the crude was being stolen. That was at the peak. And the government now says, it's just a lower percentage now being stolen. But the fact is that that's money that ought to go to federation account. I don't talk about gas and other things. So that's what is happening on the income side. On the expenditure side, the government is just practically wasting its money. Why? Because President Tinubu knows that under the Constitution, you cannot touch 1 naira of government money except to budget for it. And that budget has to go to the National Assembly to approve it. So what they've done is to have fake budgets. Their budgets are not real. They use that budget to obtain authority to access the money. So first, the budget doesn't recognize all the income. 2, the items in the budget are not real. They're mostly padded items, not related to any developmental objective or traceable to any phase or component of the National Development Plan. Thirdly, they don't release the money to the agencies whose names they use to take the money. So you will see a minister will say, only 7% has been given to me. And then the senator will be shouting. After a while, the noise gets purchased. That noise goes, purchase their silence. The fourth component is that anybody just does what he likes, including an agency they say is not known to law. It's not created by them. that agency has billions attached to his name. No, we are going to come to that, but it has already come to us now. Because you explains to you why they are not doing things right, why you don't have that financial discipline to run the economy. Now, they're not generating employment. So if I were in government, I would generate employment. How do you generate employment? There are 3 ways you generate employment. One, you look at government functions, where there are gaps and needs in government functions. For example, we have security challenges. So we don't have enough manpower. One of the reasons why you see that it happens so often that they kill a general is that the general is doing a captain's duty. Otherwise, you will not say general to kill. A general is doing a captain's duty. And if a general is doing a captain's duty, what do you think the lieutenant will be doing? The lieutenant will be doing a corporal's duty. So simple things like patrol, reconnaissance, basic things that they need to do. The general is already done all of that in the past. He became a major, a colonel. So he is now in the headquarters, either headquarters in Abuja or headquarters at the front. He's now using strategic planning because he's done all the rounds. But now our generals are the ones doing the round. So they are not recruiting to the armed forces. They are rejecting a lot of people who want to go to the NDA. And that's because the government doesn't want to spend money, because this money, they will have to spend money on personnel, on equipment, and kitting, and feeding, and all of that. So they don't want to spend the money. So they are diverting the money for politics. So they're not expanding. The same thing with the police. Whether you create state police, local government police, neighborhood police, you need human beings. And you need to train them, you need to equip them, you need to support them, you need to give them their ration and everything that they need. You need to give them the insurance, you need to take care of their family, you need to expand schools for their children, health care, and all of that. So they don't want to do it. That's why there's unemployment in the system. That's one way. So we would block all of that. Second way to create employment is to create new sectors. When you create new sectors and new fields in the economy, you will see that a lot of people will be employed. As at the year 2000, the only NEPA officials were working in telecom, and mostly they were very few, a few thousands. But when we introduced GSM, and the GSM companies came, you're hearing people working in all of them now. Same thing when we expanded banking, same thing with financial instruments, e-transactions and all of that. So you need to create new sectors of the economy. So if we just layer our agriculture with agro-allied productivity and all of that, you will see that if Olams is setting up farms here, there are about 5, 6, 7 states setting up large farms as well with federal support. You could see that there was no single employee of Enugu State who was involved in aviation before. Now they have Enugu Air. So you find, I work for Enugu State government, but I'm a pilot. So when you expand new fields like that, with the way Biam Air has done it, I think Gateway is trying to do their own in Ogun. So these are the new areas. Then the third area, which is the largest area where you create employment, where President Tinubu is totally a failure, is that you stimulate employment through the private sector. Because when the private sector is able to retain capital, access capital, and the market is predictable, if they are borrowing money from the bank, they know the rate is stable. When they take government contract, they know they will be paid on time, not an argument where you will say, we paid 700 billion to government contractors, whom you all know to owe in the first place. And then you now say, okay, like, oh, we paid them 700 million, then they'll say only 40 billion has been paid. Even the 40 billion hasn't reached our hand. Imagine the difference between 700 billion and 7 billion. That difference also reflects in employment. So those are the obligations that in our time we will do, and we ensure that we do not tax businesses to death, we do not squeeze them to death, and we create a window of expansion for them. Then we invest in the social sector. More teachers, more nurses, more midwives, more birth attendants, more immunization officers, and so on, more cleaners in the dispensaries and all of that. So you'll see that. And then if you bolster the faculties of federal universities, hire more professors, more readers, more senior lecturers, and other academic staff, graduate assistants. If you graduate with a first class from university, you don't even need to apply. We will apply to you and we will immediately recruit you. But these days, you find people graduating with first class. There's no meaning anymore. In the past, if you graduate from a first class, every newspaper will carry your name. They will gazette it. People will interview you. Well, how did you do it? Tell us. And you automatically get a job. Because those are the best brains, especially in teaching. We will take you to teaching if you want to be anything in your life. But while your brain is still fresh, as a first-class graduate, you spend the first 5 years to 7 years teaching so that others can learn from you. So those are the things that we will do. You could see that they're not doing these things. These are not difficult things to do. It is not difficult to grow the economy of Nigeria because it's almost like Nigeria is like a parboiled rice made by God. With a little heating, it's edible. You know? So the country is easy to develop. You can transform it easily, but you can also easily decay if your mind is focused on yourself and accumulation of power. So I think that President Tinubu's psychology, as I see it, is that he believes that let me take care of myself, let me consolidate myself, let me have complete grip of this economy, of the power, of the system, institution for myself.
All right, let's look at sometime last week or thereabout, Reuters came out with a report that the government was running a shadow budget where they spent about 8.8 trillion naira. That is outside the budget, will represent about 2% of our GDP. What do you make of this kind of allegations, even though government is denying?
Reuters, whatever Reuters is writing, Reuters doesn't understand the issue. The government is a ghost. So if you see the shadow of a ghost, you are even lucky because a ghost is not supposed to be seen. What they are doing is an invisible government. The law provides for a transparent government, but they are running an invisible government. A government where you don't even know where the president is. You don't know anything. It is not only the people outside government that don't know where the government is. I don't know whether the vice president knows where the government is. Everybody who is allocated a space in the building is lucky to have the key to his office. And he goes to his office and sits down. He doesn't know what's going on in government because there is no government in the proper constitutional way. No. This is Tinubu household. Move to Abuja. Therefore, if you have no government relationship, no government position, but you are close to them, you will know what's going on in government, in their own fashion of government. And their government and their politics is the same. So essentially, they are in government to pursue their politics. And their politics is to retain them in government. So it's a cycle that is a dry cycle. So that is it. President Tinubu is just a dry cell battery that is self-powering but cannot bring light.
The Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, Taiwo Oyedele, was saying that Nigerians, analysts don't understand what IMF 2026 Article 4 consultation report meant, that they are not spending anything out of that. It's just that we don't understand what he's saying.
You know, you can't blame the gentleman. He's a tax collector. He came to this government to help them on how to collect taxation. Somehow something happened and they put him with a label that he himself is trying to understand what is the meaning of this label. Like, okay, I'm finance minister and coordinator of the economy. He has no single economy thought. You can challenge me that I say that the Minister of Finance and coordinator of the economy has no single economy thought outside tax collection. He has never given a paper, delivered a paper, given a speech, written an article, done anything that is outside tax. So, as far as he's concerned, he is just the tax master general of the Federation. And that's why he keeps talking. Most of the time, in his subconscious musings. It's always about we're not paying enough tax. So it's not able to understand even how the IMEC system works, all these Bretton Woods institutions, why they write their reports, and what is there. And if he doesn't understand this job, I'm not surprised, because even the president who brought him, I don't think he talked beyond the issue of who is going to help me keep my money. Because if you look at it very well, the finance minister doesn't know what's going on in the economy, because if he does, he would know that the report from the IMF is conservative, and he will take it as a challenge that I need to investigate where all this money is coming from and where it's leaking. It's even he who ought to have discovered that there are ungazetted agencies that are coming to finance to pursue their money. To say, who gazetted you? Where are you? Which organization is this? So, generally speaking, Taiwo Oyedele is a finger in the hand of President Tinubu. And if the hand is paralyzed, the finger will not function. So, now addressing a finger of a paralyzed hand and interrogating that finger why that finger is not functioning is not the way to practice medicine. A neurosurgeon will not do that. A neurosurgeon will say, where's the nerve center of this finger that is not working? The nerve center is not even the hand. The nerve center is in the brain. So the problem of President Tinubu's government, which you will see reflect in all that they do around, is that there ought to be a super brain that is stating what the rest should do. And their super brain is not there. Because the government wants to run a mindless system of zombies, zombie appointees, who you just give instruction whether lawful or not lawful, whether constitutional or not constitutional, whether sustainable or not sustainable. So they are giving them tasks to do, but there's no mission to fulfill. So that's why Taiwo Oyedele, in all his going about introducing himself to the country, he refused to set any target. He refused to explain what he met on the ground. He refused to set target of where he's going and where the economy is going. So, and you can see that it cannot match the energy of the central bank governor. And normally, you ought to be able to not only match the energy of the central bank governor, but also surpass it. Because the problem, when President Buhari was there with Emefiele, they had total fiscal collapse and monetary insanity. Because they were stealing money from government and diverting that money to buy forex. So the fiscal looseness, where you could get access to government money, you can say, I'm doing Air Nigeria, I'm doing whatever, I'm doing this project, I'm doing feeding of the poor, all this social intervention. So there's a lot of loose money. So when you have that loose money, typically, if you have a monetary system that works, the monetary system will expose to you that there's a lot of money flowing around in the economy with no purpose and no allocative efficiency or value, in not part of any value chain. So they will absorb that money. But in the case of Emefiele or Buhari, the whole APC setting, you will see that the fiscal indiscipline was now feeding the monetary insanity. So you just take that money, you go and buy forex, you round trip the forex. So what Cardoso has done was to manage the monetary insanity and make it a hidden one. So the central bank is not actively participating in it, and they try to mop up. But the fiscal insanity, the fiscal indiscipline has become a fiscal riot. Because there is no government in Nigeria that is functioning, where there's a Federal Executive Council, and all of them in the council have collective responsibility for the economy and for the resources of Nigeria. So you could be in the Federal Executive Council and you hear a whisper that your fellow minister has excused himself from TSA, and it's news to you, there was no decision that we didn't that the memo wasn't brought to council where we debated it. So the person who's national planning is thinking that, okay, everybody is under TSA. But to his chagrin, some are dropped out. The Minister of Finance, who is the man collecting the money, is not aware of that. So, and then there are so many projects, things going on. And if you look at the graph, there are about 7 contractors taking 89% of all the works program. So the Minister of Works has become a social commentator. He's competing with money show analysts because he is just a cartoon character set out on the road to go with cameras. But the pricing of the project, the selection of the contractors, those are all superior orders. So these are the problems that we're seeing, and that Taiwo Oyedele is not the person you're going to go to. He's a journey just come. He was brought there for the very lack of intelligence. Because even Wale Edun, who somehow was half compromising, that wasn't sufficient enough. You have to just be a complete rubber stamp. So who's just there to sit on that seat? Just what they wanted to make out of Amukutan. They don't want an election umpire. They didn't want any Emeawa or Humphrey Nwosu. No. They just want an out-of-body academic who will sit down there with a banner at the back and say, INEC chairman. But the direction, the policy, the budget, even right now, you go to INEC, don't try to interview them. Call Amukutan to come and sit on the seat where I'm seated here. Ask him, where is your money for 2027 elections? I won't be surprised if Amukutan bring out his Bible and say, the Lord is my shepherd. He's going to provide for me. But he cannot trace in the budget. He's not in charge. So this is the kind of thing they want in government. That's why you will see that most of the new appointees, they bear similar names from similar parts of the country. In fact, same part of the country. It is an accident for an announcement to be made for employment. And my grandmother cannot interpret the surname of that person. There will invariably be a Yoruba name. And if you study that person, it's invariably one of the layabouts in Lagos who is hanging around, who is involved in their politics. That's why the man who is the new star, the avatar of their government now, the self-appointed, self-regenerative, self-sustaining Director General of one agency, he's telling you, I'm an APC leader. I work with Asiwaju, which means you work with the president. So that's the kind of thing you see here. So it is Tinubu's campaign council, short of those one from other parts of the country that have been thrown out, the ethnic version, the ethnic rump of his campaign council at what they say as the approximation of government. I'm talking of federal government, not government of some village in Osun or Lagos. The federal government of Nigeria, the entire government of 36 states, all the ethnic groups, all the diversity of Nigeria, all our experience, and all the cumulative experiences from Azikiwe to now, combined together, this is the parody it has become.
Let's talk about the very topical, sensitive issues. You've made references to it. Let's now delve into the meat of this issue, and that's the bribery scandal surrounding the chief of staff to the president. Prince Adeniyi claimed that he is the Director General of Presidential Foreign Intervention Promotion Council, accused the chief of staff of receiving 400 million from him through a proxy, and outstanding 200 million was to secure an appointment. However, the chief of staff has distanced himself from the guy and the agency, saying it does not exist. And somehow, the special advisor to the president on information and strategy absorbed the chief of staff completely, saying that this man is an impostor. What do you make of this drama?
It's just a drama. It's left to Nigeria. You see, all of this is possible because the Nigerian media somehow have taken up the role of the audience in Shakespearean tragicomedy. Because the audience in Shakespearean tragicomedy, they know the script. Because before Shakespeare goes to act his script on the stage, he's written the drama before. We've read it. So if you go and sit down to watch Othello, you already know the whole storyline, how it's going to happen to the end. So if you go and watch Macbeth, you already know Macbeth's story. So the Nigerian media knows the truth, but they see the government now as a content. They see crime and criminality as content. So they keep allowing the story to go. It's obvious that President Tinubu knows very well and doesn't mind that people pay money to his principal staff to get appointments and to get access. So it's a their government. It's a clearing and forwarding government. So I'm not going to speak to one alone. You don't know that people pay money to join the police? If you are a journalist in Nigeria and you don't know what's going on in Nigeria, should that not be a special hell for journalists who don't know what's going on in their own country? You don't know that people don't tell you that I'm looking for employment in government agency, they say I should bring so amount? Can you swear by your journalistic holy book that you've not heard of it? So if you don't care, or you pretend, I've not seen it before. Of course. That's the whole essence. It is not a bad thing for them, because that's the way they know. It is just that they have one bad business, which is now exposed. So the government is a moral brothel. You cannot go into a brothel and say you are asking for a divorce. It's not a marriage. So this abnormality is being normalized by us framing it like an investigation into the existence or non-existence of federal agency. No. It is another crime in a country whose government wants to turn the whole country to a crime scene. So the government knows. It's just another day at the office for them. So, but it's not hard to investigate. It's happening. So people, even right from Buhari's government, you could get a letter of appointment saying you are the principal secretary of the president, and you will not assume duty because somebody said you have not paid them. President can approve your appointment and you don't get the job. Young people go and write exams to enter government agencies, and they know that no matter what you score in the exam, it won't make a difference except you pay somebody. We are just a society that we want to move ourselves further away from the mercy of God, because we have now become complicit.
Let's look at the arrest of Adeyemi's father without even a court order in terms of maybe substituted arrest. And then the president setting up a committee with those who have been fingered in all of this, or allegedly involved, still in active roles. As a matter of fact, the president also gave a public clean bill of health to his chief of staff when he appointed him as the chairman of the Presidential Council for the creation of state police. So what do you make of all this, especially the arrest of Adeyemi's father?
First and foremost, if anybody is still claiming to be Adeyemi's father, that person is very bold, because in the part of the country where I come from, if you have a son like that, you are not so proud to claim you anymore. In the past, you will have to look for another father. So if father should consult a lawyer to talk about his rights, but I'm not going to discuss his personal rights. He should get a lawyer. But if that anybody is still coming out to say I'm the father of this person, who is involved in this national abomination. I don't know. I can't get away with it. My family would disown me if I got 1% of that kind of scandal. Second, we don't listen to our ancestors. That's why we have this problem of analysis. Our ancestors say that a son who has been set by his father to go and steal will use his leg to kick the door open. Because who are you going to report him to? His father. So, where is Chief of Staff going to go? If the Chief of Staff goes, President Tinubu goes. Because the Chief of Staff is a reflection of the chief character of the President. So it's not a case of a stray, Chief of Staff has strayed from the line. He's carrying out the assignment given to him. He's not violated any instruction of the President. You can have a bad day at work. So if you are a bakery and you send your driver to go and deliver bread, if his vehicle knocks down a motorcyclist, you'll be responsible because he's still going on the way you sent him. Everything the Chief of Staff has done is what the President asked him to do. So the President is not surprised, only you are surprised. And the fact that you are surprised surprises me.
But ironically, the Senate today rejected the motion to probe the controversial Presidential Foreign Intervention Promotion Council. They rejected it because a lot of persons were worried that, you appropriated this money for this supposedly fake agency. Some of you have spent 12 years, some people 18 years, some 3, and so on. Nobody raised an observation about this agency. Have we been appropriating money to it? Was it why they shut it down or what?
The Senate does not exist. Because the Senate President is the senior special assistant to the President of Nigeria on comedy and MC and ceremonial opening. So, the Senate has lost its leadership. There's a decapitation of the Senate. So the Senate as a watchdog, where government agencies will retire their spending and come and explain, is the one who goes around not on oversight functioning, but he goes around as an idle hand that the President calls when he's too busy taking care of himself. So if they say, President, come and commission something, he doesn't send the minister who is involved, he sends the Senate President, who goes there to sing for the President and do Alibaba and other comedy show for the President and all of that. What President Tinubu is doing all of this for is a well-calculated Roman system of undermining the Senate. That the Senate will lose its prestige and self-awareness and authority. So there is no gravitas or gravamen when it comes to the Senate. The Senate is just a place where the President dropped his waste bin. So that is why they don't have the mentality that we can probe our boss, our employer, or the person whom we work for. It's even the President who has a list to dictate who will return to the Senate, who will not return to the Senate. And he also has given them parliamentary blindness, parliamentary glaucoma, that they are not allowed to read laws that they pass. It's given to them, and they do the true motion. First reading, second reading, they drink water. Third reading, it's passed. Then you ask them, what did you pass? I will read it later. So I am doing all of this to let you know that when you are thinking of how to solve the problem of the country, don't think, if I put Adebayo as president, I've done my part. You still have to think of, I need to send human beings who still have a sense of shame, sense of nationality, sense of patriotism. Let me put them in the Senate. We have not mentioned House of Representatives because we know that they've gone below nursery school level. They just come there to mark attendance because their speaker can't speak. And the deputy speaker is just having a very good time with his tailor. He's promoting Nigerian fashion. So that whole arm is gone. So that's why you see more of these abominations come up. And there are no constituencies, which is the big shame there. That Nigerians have disowned these legislators. Because normally, a legislator's constituents will be waiting. That if you don't do something about this thing, we are going to hold you to account. So so as we are criticizing the government and the failure and the total collapse of the very fabric of governance, we have to look at the government belongs to the people. And the people, they're not interested. They probably will cry more that Seneca drop out of the World Cup than they will cry that the Senate is not functioning. So there is no constituency for the legislators to please. There's only one constituency, Villa, State House.
All right, the judiciary, you've repeatedly raised concerns about the independence of the Nigerian judiciary. In your opinion, is the judiciary in 2026 more captured now than it was even under Abacha?
The greatest problem facing judiciary now is that they've lost control of the judicial docket and calendar. Because we have an unending, never-ending election cycle or cycles. And the Constitution under Section 285 says the political question must be answered quickly. Why should a court be asked to say whether Nafiu Bala, Nafiu Gombe, Nafiu Mark, Nafiu Arebochala, who cares? Rarely do you have any country, up to 5 in the world, that their judiciary can be asked that kind of question and they will not throw you out of their court.
So why do judiciary entertain them here?
Because the way our law is written in such a way that Section 285 is forcing them to answer these political questions with top priority. So that's why when we become president by God's grace, we will depoliticize the judiciary. We will work with Nigerian people to create a constitutional court that is a 2-chamber, 1 court to answer political questions. And if you're not satisfied, and that's the end, we can't help you. The main judiciary will be doing the pursuit of justice. Right now, the greatest challenge facing the judiciary is that the pursuit of justice is almost impossible. Justice through law is almost impossible because they are being made to answer political questions. And that's what we need to do. And then there are other problems in terms of selection, recruitment, and things like that.
In the light of your analysis, let's look at the recent Federal High Court judgment from Lokoja, where Justice Peter Lifu Justice Issa Dashen talked about deregistering of the NDC, and then the circumstances under which, after a final judgment, a court can revisit a matter that he has given its final judgment on.
Well, he who lives by the sword, he also dies by the sword. That's the original error, is why should the registration of a political party come through the court? Isn't that a broken politics?
But they said they met all requirements. INEC was now holding them.
That's what I'm saying to you. That's what I'm saying to you, that
allow them.
Once you start your politics with the fact that for you to even enter politics and exercise your citizenship right of Section 40 to organize yourself into a group that wants to become a political party, that you need a court order to do so, is where you should start from. You know, in Nigeria, when a court gives a favorable judgment in an area that we are happy about, we don't interrogate that why should I even need the court? If, for example, now, you bring a court order asking my wife to prepare the best dishes for me and make sure we share the bed 7 times a week. It favors me, I can tell you that. But I will say, why are you even interfering in my affairs? Why are you the one telling me to do that? Because if I allow that order to go, tomorrow another order may come, saying my wife should not cook for me at all and should not answer my greetings. So citizens should understand that the court is also a government agency. And there should be areas in your life where courts should have no say. Because the court can have a good say today and a bad say tomorrow. Therefore, our policies should be reorganized in such a way that nobody needs to go to INEC to register a political party anymore. I become president, I will introduce that law. If you want to form a political party, go and form a political party. When elections come, nominate your candidates and send to the party. Pay the deposit to INEC. And that deposit will be paid not to INEC, it's a federation account. Now, if you get less than 10% of the vote, you lose your deposit. If you get more than 10% of the vote, even if you lost, you apply for a deposit to be returned to you. So you can form a political party today and say you want to run election tomorrow, it's your choice. 3 factions of the same party can send 3 candidates, your choice. The people will vote. So if you are a political party, you bring yourself into 3 factions and you go and sponsor 3 candidates, each of you will pay the deposit. When you all lose, you will learn your lesson. That's how it used to be done in the First Republic. That's how it's still done in the UK now. In the last election in the UK, there's Yoruba Party of the UK. I hope you are aware. Of course.
Yes, I think I read that.
Predictably, they didn't win any seat. But no INEC to say, what kind of nonsense is this? You can form anything you like. One day, maybe they will win election in some council somewhere. You say Yoruba Party of Birmingham. Good luck to you. So, in those days, when you say NCNC had like 57 affiliates. Mobalaje group of Ibadan. This Ibadan Parapo. This other one. It's like that. So you can be in your community, and your community can look at you and say, this gentleman will be a good representative. They can approach a political party and say, let's have an agreement. Inside Ngwa community, we want to sponsor somebody to go to House of Reps for us, or House of Assembly. But SDP, do you want to be in agreement with us? If they say no, they go to another party. If they say no, they themselves will sponsor you as an independent candidate. And that party will win seat in that Ngwa area. That does not affect Chokoto. It doesn't affect Ondo. So let us devolve all of these things. Otherwise, you will now have to learn jurisprudence in order to do politics. I will have now to tell you that, look, first and foremost, if a court gives a judgment, the court can review the judgment in certain situations. If the judgment was obtained by fraud, if they concealed material facts, if it found out that I didn't have jurisdiction at all. So, if I go to court now and say, I am the largest shareholder of SYMFONI, and Iroele is acting without my authority, get an injunction to restrain him from working in SYMFONI and doing interview with anybody. If the other person who comes to court just opposes me without telling the court that this gentleman is just a beneficiary of SYMFONI, they've invited him graciously to come and do interview, then he develop ambition and says he's the chairman now, the court will give the judgment in my favor, and I will come to the police with police to this place, and you can't enter again. So it's a judgment. So you have 2 options. You can either go on appeal, or you can say, why am I going on appeal? Let me go back to that court and say, you are being fooled. This gentleman who got the judgment is not even the chairman. If the court finds out, oh, I've been defrauded. So it's not, the court can set it aside. It's allowed. But all of these things, no explanation works in politics. Because politics is based on interests. So the best thing to do, therefore, is to learn all these lessons long term and say, okay, since the courts can be used for mischief, police can be used for mischief, INEC can be used for mischief, let us minimize their role in our politics. So in my time as president, the policeman will not follow me. No if you see a policeman inside the villa, he's coming to arrest somebody there. Because I will ban the police from entering the villa or anything. That's for DSS. DSS is taking care of politics and politicians. Police, law enforcement. So anywhere you see a policeman, that means one law has been broken. If I see a policeman carrying his gun and following Victor Iroele, and my friend, don't enter trouble today. Let me call a lawyer. I will call your wife. Madam, I saw your husband with police. He said, and so I see him. But it's not a status symbol as it is today.
Let's come back to that the matter you talked about, the conditions under which a case can be thrown out. Did he apply in the NDC case?
Well, the court says it's applied, so they're going on appeal. So the appellate court will interpret. The good thing is that only one judge. They've gone to Court of Appeal, 3 judges will look into it. And if they're not satisfied with the 3 justices, they will find 5 justices of the Supreme Court. What I'm addressing as a policy leader, not just a social commentator or legal analyst, what I'm explaining is that when your politics get to that angle, your handshake has gone beyond the elbow now. You are beginning wrestling. Nobody's politics should get to that level. The process of party registration should not be such that you need to go to court. And we need to put an end to that. So that the status of political parties, ability to go to be registered, to nominate candidates, to choose leadership, to change leadership, to sustain leadership, should not be under judicial or administrative control. So it is either, right now, my political party is Social Democratic Party. We are at the risk of any judicial order here and there. We're always defending, always going here and there. That is true for many political parties. All of that has to end. There's a new class of the legal profession, a new class of lawyers in law practice who in the past 27 years have been feeding on the carcass of our decaying politics. A new class has arisen with the judicial problematization of political parties' crisis. And this is what we need to take wholesale out. Once we take that out, every other person will go and find something else to do. And politics will take the tone you ought to take, which is to go back to the people. Your popularity with the people, your interaction with the people, the choice. If a people recognize you as a political party, you are a political party.
Let's look at, as a lawyer and presidential candidate, how did Justice Peter Lifu's judgment directing INEC to deregister ADC and 4 other political parties come to you?
It came to me like high fever for someone who already has yellow fever. It shows to you that you need to do what I'm saying now. The Adebayo doctrine on unfettered democracy has to take place. How can a judge be told by some incorporated trustee? The reason why I won't comment much is because I'm a lawyer in some of the cases. So, and the ethics of our profession doesn't allow us, after appealing against the judgment of the court, you are now appealed. I'm going to court tomorrow in one of the matters, and then Tuesday as well. And I was there yesterday. So you now leave the court, and I carry a microphone and start to analyze the case. But from the public interest point of view is that we have boxed ourselves into a corner where it's like asking judiciary to choose the clothes your wife is going to wear, the food your children will eat at home, what topics or subject teachers are going to teach in school. We've gone too far with the use of the courts. No court should have the power to register or deregister a political party. In fact, in most democracies, proscription of a political party is a major crisis. So you need big legal consideration to proscribe a political organization, which has to say whether they are now a terrorist organization, they are carrying arms. So what the judge has done, or what we allow them to do, is to proscribe. If you are deregistered, you are practically proscribed from politics. That is not something a judge can do.
Some persons have alluded that the Attorney General of Federation is interested in supporting the deregistration of these political parties. Do you think that there is any motivation for him to be interested in it?
All I know is that the Attorney General is the conscience of the nation and the lawyer for the public. But the wrong interpretation they be given to that office for a long while now is that he's the chief lawyer of the government. And if the government wants your head on a plate, he needs to find legal justification for that. So when Herod's wife says, look, if you say you love me for my birthday present, I want the head of John the Baptist. And then they go and get the head of John the Baptist. That's what they think the Attorney General is supposed to do. It's not. Attorney General can oppose the government. But I pray that the Attorney General will have second thoughts to understand that he's not a legal assistant to the president. Even the legal assistant to the president still has minimum professional ethics. Even the smallest lawyer in government is not under the control of government. Because if you are a chief medical officer, the president cannot tell you, go and remove oxygen from a patient that is oxygen dependent. You will say, no, the Hippocratic Oath does not allow me to do that. The president cannot say, go and put arsenic in malaria medicine and inject poison and kill this person. So, you know, a good doctor, even if he works for government, he will say, I can't do it. That's what I expect even a lawyer to do better. To say, no, I can't. It's just not ethical. I'm a private lawyer. None of my clients can tell me to do something which is against the ethics of my profession. I will say, I can't do it. So for me, I'm sadly disappointed that Prince Lateef Fagbemi SAN would interpret his role as Attorney General to the extent that he feels that he needs to help the politics of the government by deregistering these political parties.
In your opinion, who or what do you think is the greatest threat to judicial independence in Nigeria today?
The greatest threat to judicial independence is the federal government and the state government. Because our politics is insecure. Right now, this your cameraman has more job security than President Tinubu. This simple interview, when he sees it, he's in the panic mode. And all his operatives are all in panic mode. They are thinking, okay, how do we react? How do we do this? Because nobody has job security, nobody has. There is a problem of insecurity in the country. Even the president is insecure in his fatherhood of the nation. So we need to understand that that is the reason why there's excessive appropriation of things that don't concern us. Insecurity makes you to be interested in things that don't concern you. When you have a secure political system, they won't want to control judiciary. They won't be too much interested in the outcome of cases.
Let's look at, as the presidential candidate of the SDP, and God willing you win, give us specific plan to crash the dollar to the naira rate within your first 100 days.
Okay, first and foremost, why are you interested in crashing dollar to naira? What's your business with that?
The purchasing power is very low.
The purchasing power is not because of dollar. The purchasing power is because of inflation. What's your business with currency of another country? You grew up in this country. Where did you start showing interest in currency? Before, you were not showing interest. The first time you had anything about currency was SAP. when they said Naira is 4 Naira to the dollar. But before, the dollar was 65 kobo, 80 kobo. Nobody cared. So what you need to know, and in our government, is that we will make sure that you have sustainability. In my government, the worst inflation you should get is 6%. By that, I'm already getting worried. Second, your cost of living for a family with a single income earner, your cost of living must be within the income of that one person. If you have a family whose entire income, a family head, a father or a mother or grandmother or uncle, guardian, whoever, if you have a head of family whose total gross income cannot pay the bill of his family, basic bills, the government should resign. Because there is no other government in the world where you will say, here is Mr. Ezekiel. He works in the post office. And he has a wife and 4 or 5 children. But the food the wife and children are eating within a week is more than the entire salary of this man. And they will still pay rent. And the children will still pay school fees. He's no longer the head of his family.
Against this model you propose now, that means we should be calling for the resignation of the government, because virtually the average Nigerian, the family heads can't meet up any longer.
Then there's no government. That's why they are not a government. That's why I say that President Tinubu refused to form a government. The mandate he collected from INEC is being used to pursue his own business, such that when you listen to them give account, they have forgotten their primary duty. And even if the driver that drives him cannot feed his own family on his income, the ADC, that fine officer standing at the back of the president, is a colonel. I challenge him to come and show me how he's living on the salary of a colonel. The person who types letter on behalf of the president is not living on his salary. So from inside the villa, is falsehood, is fraud, is lies. So, not talk of people who work in the central bank, down the line to now a school teacher, to now that traffic warden, ubiquitous traffic warden, who stands on the road in the heat, inhaling carbon monoxide and all of that, and passing traffic. Go, you are a journalist. Why are you interviewing me? Go and interview him. Ask him. Mr. Traffic Warden, I want to talk to you after work. When he leaves, what is your role? You say, I'm an inspector, or I'm a sergeant, or I'm a corporal. How much is your salary? Where do you live? Can you do the arithmetic? He cannot survive. So why is he coming every day? It shows to you that he has his friends who are waiting for you to commit traffic offense. They go and jam you one corner and jack you up, and you collect money and things like that. Go to the nearest DPO in the police station next to you. Ask the DPO, can you survive on your salary? It's a test. Because in our government, you will answer that test.
As Commander-in-Chief, what plans will you take to ensure that Nigerians are safe?
Very simple. I will live to my oath of office. I will not collaborate with criminals, kidnappers, terrorists. I will not house terrorists in the villa that President Tinubu is doing. Go and find out. The headquarters of Boko Haram is the headquarters of the presidency itself. And if the president wants to end Boko Haram anytime, he just needs to switch off the button and that's it. So, and they know what they are doing, why they keep it. And if you see it, it reflects in the budget, it reflects in how they do their politics, it reflects in everything. So I want Nigerians to know and stop the imagination that anywhere there is government, kidnapping, criminality cannot sustain. It's not possible. The only reason why Boko Haram is bigger now than under Buhari, bigger under Buhari than under Jonathan, bigger under Jonathan than under Yaradua, is that the government tolerates it. They know what to do, they won't do it. And it's reflecting even in the career patterns of the military officers, how they behave, what happens. So while the older classes, sets of military officers retired, and a colonel will be earning 600,000 about now. 600,000 naira is what a senior colonel will earn, 600,000 about as pension. The ones who are there now, many of them are collecting their own pension in billions before they even retire. So they're controlling a lot of money. So the Boko Haram thing is an economic program of welfare for people in government. There are real manifestations of insecurity, like you kidnap a child or children, you go and shoot community people, one chance on the street. But all of that is not beyond the power of police to handle. What is happening is that just like government managed darkness over the years, it's not as if electricity is difficult to get. Just that government is watching when cement. There's no war. You know, in Ukraine, in Russia, they are throwing bombs into cement factories and all that. In Nigeria, there was a time we had no cement factory. Apart from Nkalagu, we had the one at Boko, Iwekoro, few. But you could buy cement when you earn your salary as anybody in government, anybody in employment. You can buy a trailer load of cement, no matter what your salary was. You may not be able to buy other things, but if you buy. So what is my age now? But I started buying cement, 400 naira. Government is watching till cement became 14,000, 12,000. Is that Boko Haram too? Is that hard to do? So we started GSM to the point now where you can make WhatsApp call, where GSM is dropping. Why? Because people in NCC decided to be on the side of the service provider, so they will not maintain their cell site, the ratio that they're supposed to maintain for the handshake. So they will not turn them on, so they save money, they give some money to the people who are the regulators. What I'm letting you know is that a government that allows a dead body by the roadside, that dead body is not toxic, it's not carrying bomb. It's just that maybe there's a collision or a car runs somebody down. The government that cannot come and pick that dead body on the street and go and bury it, is leaving it to decay there. It should show you that government is going to fight Boko Haram. A government in the capital city of Abuja that allows children to walk up to you and be using their hand to wipe your windscreen and beg for money. And the government is seeing them. And there's a minister of FCT who will demolish your house if you look at him in a very funny way. But there's a presidency that if you are talking anything, they're going to respond to you. But there's a first lady that is hawking kulikuli and akara into the lexicon of business. But they don't know how to go around the street and pick all these kids and put them in the nearest school. So these are things you can see that they can do. You don't need to hire mercenary to do that. They are very simple things to do. And they're not outside the budget, they're not big items. If they neglect to do it, they're not telling you that they are going to go and fight Boko Haram. They're not doing any fight Boko Haram. They're using Boko Haram for three things. First, they're using as a boogeyman to frighten you, so the country is not secure and all of that. Two, to steal all your money, because they will say, I'm chasing Sheikh. How many times did they kill Sheikh? The most expensive killing in dying history is Sheikh. So, Sheikh dies today, Sheikh dies tomorrow. When they're tired of Sheikh dying, and they went and look for Lakurawa or something else to talk about. So the thirdly is they are using for the politics of it. So now that's how I'm letting you know. So is it the Boko Haram so complicated? The Nigerian armed forces don't have dedicated communication line with all the people in Signal. How would a military man talking to another military man, you want to be using GSM in the war theater? Where is it done? And Nigeria is licensing Starlink to have drop down of their satellite communication in Nigeria. And so-called Boko Haram and terrorists are using the Starlink, importing into Nigeria, carrying cartons into the bushes, and they are communicating. So you will see investigation of the death of a general. You will see that the general is missing action, MIA. Maybe he didn't read his map well. Maybe somebody deceived him to a location and they withdrew from him. I don't know, whatever it was. Now, this general cannot contact his headquarters. That's a general. I'm not talking of a corporal. A general who is a headquarter himself, mobile headquarter, could not connect to his headquarter. Then he cannot connect to his own chain of command downwards. That is, chain of command upwards, headquarters, he cannot reach them. Then chain of command downwards, his own adjutant, other people are below him, all of those who reported to him, he cannot reach them. Then they want to rescue him. The rescue team cannot reach him. So his phone is dying and he's calling and now to the point where the people who want to kill him, the enemy, are able to locate him and they are communicating to one another to say he's there, go and meet him there. And they are communicating among them. So don't let me get angry here. So don't talk to me again if you interview me about Boko Haram. Boko Haram, Tinubu, they are the same thing. If one goes, the other goes. I can tell you that for sure. When President Buhari was coming in 2014, I don't know one interview. I think it was one of the foreign media asking him, what are you going to do about Boko Haram? He was very annoyed. What is Boko Haram? Who are they? I get rid of them 6 months. What's Boko Haram? He was angry. Why would you even ask me about Boko Haram?
All right, let's wrap up this way. Are we expecting the opposition to form a coalition ahead of the 2027 elections, given the fact that 2023, the oppositions, they were in different camps, and that affected their performance? If they also to go separate ways again, can they truly defeat President Tinubu?
Yeah, defeating Tinubu is not a problem. Tinubu has defeated himself. What we are thinking is being able to have a platform that will defeat poverty and insecurity and bad governance. And if you don't have that coalition around that idea, joining together to go and defeat Tinubu is nothing. Before Tinubu, there were problems. Tinubu became additional problems. And after him, there will be problems, even bigger problems, if the character and nature of the government that is coming next. Nigerians who are, it's not an improvement. Nigerians who are criticizing Tinubu now and say this is the worst, I pray to God that they won't be apologizing to Tinubu later. So say, in Tinubu's time at least, it's not this bad.
So apologizing to Buhari now.
Exactly. So the way to stop it is to do two things. One, let the Nigerian people unite around how to say farewell to poverty and insecurity and bad governance and non-accountability. Let your interest, when you wake up in the morning, watching the news, reading papers, talking, going to church, going to the mosque, going to the market, let how Nigeria will put an end to poverty and insecurity and bad governance be your priority. If all Nigerians have that, then they will be looking for a political party or candidates who they think will do this for them. Then it's around that will now build a coalition. Right now, it's management of individual ambitions. And politicians are calculating who is more likely to win if I align myself. And that is not a direct answer to the problem of governance. What brought Tinubu to power was that there were calculations. They calculated his war chest, the amount of money he has, this and that. They calculated, okay, he's more likely to win. Let me be on his side. And if you use that same formula now to say, who who can we rally around? That's not it. You have to say, we are going to change the government for sure. President Tinubu himself will not be surprised when they are reading the news and he has lost. He won't be shocked. He will be shocked if he wins. So these people are so hopeless like this. Despite me having dealt with them, so they are still just easily defeated like this. So he's been defeated, he's losing, it's not a problem for him. But the key issue is to have a platform that can guarantee that after we have changed the government, people will not come on set like me now and start lamenting about the problem of that new government. And that was what kept us from joining any coalition, because that question has not been answered.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure always having you around.
Thank you, and may God bless Nigeria.
Amen.